When was the last time you truly felt in control of your life? For many men today, the idea of purpose feels like a moving target. Society tells us masculinity is either toxic, outdated, or something to be reshaped into softer, more digestible forms. But underneath all the noise, there's still a deep hunger, a craving to live with direction, to stand for something bigger than ourselves. And that's exactly where Nietzsche comes in. His philosophy wasn't just abstract theory. It was a challenge, a battle cry, and maybe even a roadmap for men searching to reclaim their strength and clarity in a confusing world. Nietzsche saw his time as an age of decline, a world losing its spirit, collapsing into comfort, mediocrity, and conformity. Sound familiar? In many ways, he could have been writing about our own age, where men often feel torn between outdated stereotypes and a modern culture that doesn't quite know what to do with masculinity anymore. Nietzsche's advice wasn't to go backward or to cling to tradition, but to go deeper. He urged men to face the void, confront their doubts, and carve out meaning where none seemed to exist. The heart of Nietzsche's message is this: strength is not about domination, control, or brute force. Strength, in his view, is about creating. It's about building a foundation of meaning that's born from within, not handed down from outside authorities. He warned against what he called the herd mentality, the tendency to live by other people's rules, values, and expectations. And if you think about it, that's exactly where so many men get stuck today. They chase approval, play roles, and follow scripts that were never truly theirs. Nietzsche says, break free. Write your own script. But here's the catch. Nietzsche also knew this path wasn't for the faint of heart. It requires confronting uncomfortable truths, even about ourselves. He famously declared, God is dead. And while this wasn't a celebration, it was a recognition that the old frameworks of meaning were collapsing. For men, that collapse can feel terrifying. Without ready-made roles, traditions, or beliefs to lean on, the risk of aimlessness grows. But Nietzsche would say, this is not a curse, it's an opportunity. Without old definitions tying you down, you're free to build your own. So what does reclaiming masculine purpose look like through Nietzsche's lens? First, it starts with self-overcoming. This means identifying the weak parts of yourself, the fears, the habits, the excuses, and pushing beyond them. Masculinity, for Nietzsche, isn't something you're simply born into. It's something you forge, step by step, in the fire of your struggles. Every challenge you face, every difficulty you embrace, is raw material for shaping a stronger self. Nietzsche gave this idea a powerful name, the Übermensch, or overman. This isn't about being a superhero or some impossible ideal. It's about living as a creator of values, someone who doesn't just accept life as it is, but transforms it into something higher. In practical terms, that could mean rejecting the shallow chase for status symbols, resisting the lure of easy pleasures, and instead dedicating yourself to a vision that actually matters to you. The Übermensch isn't a man who follows, it's a man who leads, even if he walks alone. But let's be honest, walking this path is lonely. Nietzsche knew that too. He often wrote about solitude as both a burden and a gift. In solitude, you're stripped of distractions, forced to confront who you really are. And it's there, away from the herd, that a man can hear his own voice. Solitude becomes the training ground for purpose. Modern life, with its constant noise and endless scrolling, makes this harder than ever. But maybe that's why it's also more important than ever. Nietzsche's advice wasn't about withdrawing forever. Instead, solitude is preparation. It's where you sharpen your will and strengthen your spirit so that when you return to the world, you're not swallowed up by it. Reclaiming masculine purpose means learning how to stand in the chaos of society without losing yourself. It means engaging with the world on your own terms, not as a passive consumer, but as a creator, a contributor, a force of meaning. And here's where Nietzsche drops one of his most profound ideas: Amor Fati, the love of fate. Imagine embracing everything that happens to you, the good, the bad, the painful, the joyful, not as random accidents, but as essential parts of your story. Instead of resisting life or wishing it were different, Nietzsche tells us to say yes to it, to love it as it is. For men seeking purpose, this is a radical shift. Your struggles aren't setbacks. They're the training ground of your destiny. Think about how different life feels when you approach it this way. Every obstacle becomes a teacher. Every disappointment becomes fuel. Instead of living in resentment, blaming society, or longing for easier circumstances, you use what's in front of you to grow. Masculinity, through Nietzsche's lens, isn't about having perfect control. It's about embracing the chaos, the risk, and the pain, and saying, "This too makes me who I am." This is only the beginning. Nietzsche's philosophy is not a quick fix, it's a lifelong journey. But if you're tired of living by borrowed values, tired of the shallow noise that tells you what a man should be, then maybe it's time to take up his challenge. Reclaiming masculine purpose means daring to walk your own path, to embrace solitude, to love your fate, and ultimately, to create a life that is truly your own. So how do we actually put Nietzsche's ideas into practice? Philosophy is inspiring, sure, but without action, it risks becoming just another motivational quote on your social media feed. Nietzsche believed that ideas are useless unless they're lived, tested, and embodied. If reclaiming masculine purpose is our goal, then it starts with the way we structure our lives, the habits, the choices, and the values we cultivate every single day. One of Nietzsche's sharpest criticisms was aimed at comfort. He saw modern man becoming soft, dulled by ease, and weakened by the pursuit of pleasure over growth. If you want to live with purpose, start by questioning how much of your life is designed around comfort. Are you choosing the easy path because it feels safe? Or are you pushing into the hard, uncomfortable spaces where growth actually happens? Nietzsche would say, embrace the difficulty. That's where you find your edge. Discipline then becomes essential. But not discipline in the shallow sense of grinding yourself into exhaustion for social approval. Nietzsche's discipline is self-mastery. It's the art of shaping yourself deliberately. That could mean developing physical strength, but also intellectual depth and emotional resilience. Each act of discipline is a small rebellion against the herd, a statement that says, "I refuse to drift. I choose my path." Another key principle is redefining success. Society often equates masculinity with external markers, wealth, status, or dominance. Nietzsche calls this a trap. If your sense of worth depends on others' approval, you'll always be enslaved to their expectations. Real success, in his view, is about authenticity, living in alignment with the values you've created for yourself. When you stop chasing what the herd says is valuable, you free yourself to pursue what's truly meaningful. But let's get real. The modern world is full of distractions. Social media, endless entertainment, and the dopamine loop of constant scrolling pull men away from deeper purpose. Nietzsche would probably see this as the ultimate form of herd mentality, millions of people numbing themselves in the same way, trapped in cycles of shallow pleasure. To reclaim purpose, you have to cut through that noise. That means setting boundaries, reclaiming your attention, and choosing depth over distraction. Nietzsche also emphasized the creative dimension of masculinity. To live with purpose, you must create, whether that's building a business, writing a book, raising a family, or crafting a life that reflects your deepest values. Creation is how you leave a mark on the world. It's how you transform existence from something given to something chosen. Nietzsche believed that man at his best is not a passive consumer, but an active creator of meaning. Of course, this requires courage. Because when you step away from the herd, you open yourself to criticism, rejection, and misunderstanding. Nietzsche knew this well. His ideas were ridiculed in his lifetime, and he spent much of his life isolated. But he also believed that true greatness is impossible without risk. To reclaim masculine purpose, you must be willing to stand alone, to face judgment, and to keep building anyway. And here's the paradox. While Nietzsche urges us to walk alone, he also points to the importance of struggle with others. He wrote about the value of rivalry, not petty competition, but the kind that pushes you to grow. For men, this means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, not just those who comfort you. Brotherhood, in this sense, isn't about validation. It's about sharpening one another, like iron against iron. Another layer of Nietzsche's philosophy that often gets overlooked is joy. Yes, he wrote about suffering, struggle, and hardship, but for him, these were pathways to a deeper kind of joy. Not the shallow happiness of comfort, but the fierce joy of living fully, of embracing life in all its complexity. Purpose isn't just about carrying heavy burdens. It's about learning to dance with them. Nietzsche himself said, "I would only believe in a God who could dance." How do we bring all of this together? Reclaiming masculine purpose through Nietzsche's lens looks like this. 1. Embrace discomfort. Seek challenges instead of avoiding them. 2. Practice self-mastery. Build discipline in body, mind, and spirit. 3. Redefine success. Measure yourself by authenticity, not approval. 4. Cut through distraction. Guard your attention and focus on what matters. 5. Create. Leave your mark by shaping something meaningful. 6. Stand with courage. Face criticism and solitude without folding. 7. Seek growth through struggle. Build brotherhood that sharpens you. 8. Choose joy. Love your fate and dance with life. This isn't about going back to some outdated image of masculinity. It's not about domination, aggression, or control. Nietzsche's vision is bolder. It's about becoming the author of your own existence. In a world where so much feels uncertain, that's both terrifying and liberating. But if you take his challenge seriously, you don't just reclaim masculine purpose, you redefine it for yourself and for the world around you. At the end of the day, Nietzsche isn't offering easy answers. He's offering a challenge. The question is, will you take it? Will you stop drifting with the herd, stop waiting for someone else to define you, and start building a life that carries your signature? Purpose isn't out there waiting to be found, it's waiting to be created. And the time to begin is now.